think we're underway with this Substack Live, and it is a breaking news special because the news today is that the Free Press, started by Barry Weiss and her sister Susie Weiss and Barry's wife, Nellie Bowles, has just been acquired by Paramount for $150 million. And as part of the acquisition, Barry Weiss will also become the editor-in-chief of CBS News, which is a pretty historic moment in the media, not least from our perspective because the Free Press was originated and completely built on Substack, this little platform that you and Gerard coded out of nothing. So congratulations, Chris, on the acquisition. You've done a good job there.
Well, I mean, congratulations to Barry and the Free Press, the whole Free Press team, really. It's an incredible, massive outcome.
It is an amazing story. From zero to a $150 million exit in the space of 3 years. Some people are saying that it's for like ideological reasons, or they want to reshape CBS in a particular political image. There may be some truth to some of that. I don't know. I don't know what the internal conversations are like over there, but I do know some of the business story of the Free Press, and these numbers have been reported. I think publicly reported numbers have shown that the Free Press is making north of $15 million a year just on subscriptions. And we know they've got podcasts and other products that also have sponsorships. So from a business perspective, I don't think $150 million is a crazy number at all. And I think it's an incredible testament to a well-crafted business strategy and powerful growth effects driven from the Substack network and a clear-minded vision for what a new media product can look like in this era. But what do you think? What do you think it says about sort of like the green shoots of new hope for media in this particular era of the media?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of skeptical takes from people in media along the lines that you say, "Oh, this doesn't count because it's just about this other thing." And I mean, I think the thing that this acquisition looks like to me is a startup acquisition. This looks like the world of startups. And so you have this, iconoclastic set of founders that build a thing from the ground up, it started out as barryweiss.substack.com and then became this whole thing. Uh, and you work on the product, you make something that people actually want and will pay for, and it resonates and it grows. And then, one of the ways that you can exit or have an outcome is that gets bought by a big company for some combination of the business and the strategic value and the sort of cultural importance and the personnel that are going to come and like be a major part of the combined enterprise. That to me just looks like a very normal startup acquisition, and there's no reason in my mind where there shouldn't be more like that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because in a way, a media company is a software company. They're making software. It's just that they do it with language, words, video, and the distribution for these companies used to be pretty crappy. You had to rely on delivery trucks, printing presses, airwaves, that kind of thing. Later on, Facebook and Twitter changed the equation a little bit. You could get some distribution through social media, but then they've changed their rules and now it's harder to get it. It's harder to rely on it. It's harder to build a business on that. For software companies, for apps, there is the App Store and you get major distribution through the App Store. And you actually get the infrastructure that helps you build that kind of business. But this is largely being missing from the media ecosystem. And it is relevant to what we're trying to build with Substack. So what are your thoughts on that? Like the parallel between these software app companies and these media software companies?
What do I think of the parallels between those things?
Try and say something incredibly intelligent and insightful.
I'm not sure if I have anything super insightful to say about that.
Well, remember you once said something along the lines of an investor told us that Substack is going to do for writers and creators what venture capital did for uh, software startups.
Yeah, I think that is fundamentally true. So there's, it used to be that if you were a programmer and a technical person, if you wanted to have an impact on the world and make something, you had to go work for somebody else. You had to go, get a boss that wore a suit that would tell you what to do. And over time, even though the people actually making the thing were creating, kind of the magic and the value, you had that situation. And then the VC industry came along and said, "Hey, you can actually be a founder. There's a new kind of thing you can be if you're the person that's actually making the thing, that actually understands it. Uh, then you can go and own it. You can go and start your own thing." And, I sometimes think of this as you're putting the inmates in charge of the asylum, and maybe you don't know what you're doing. Maybe you don't know how to build a company or build a new institution or do a thing, and certainly the variance of the outcomes increases. But I think it also unlocks something very powerful at the top of the distribution where when the people who actually understand and are making the thing get to be in charge of it and get to be independent, you can make something much more valuable. And, I think in this analogy, this new model that we at Substack are helping advance is doing this for creative people and for media figures, right? If you're somebody who's a writer or a filmmaker or a podcaster or, the person who's actually doing the thing, you can own it. You can make it yourself. You can be the boss to the point where you can grow it to sell for $150 million, or to where the point where you can own it forever and go and do your own thing. I think it's an exciting thing to unlock.
Yeah, a short way of saying that is that there's this whole infrastructure and economy sort of predicated on venture capital, but it extends into many corners that supports independent company makers to build new types of companies in the way they see fit. And now, even though that has largely been missing, there's starting to become this ecosystem that supports independent media company owners, who can which can now be started by journalists themselves, as we've seen with the free press. But the free press isn't the only one. Even on Substack, you've got the Bulwark, you've got Mike Solana's Pirate Wires. I saw Mike in the chat before. We've got Dropsite News, Ateo, even individuals, Emily Sundberg been building Feed Me, which is a phenomenon. Lenny Rachitsky with Lenny. It's called Lenny's Newsletter, but it's already Lenny's empire. He's got a podcast. He's
Yeah.
got live events. He's got bundles of AI products. And this is why I've said in the past is there's never been a better time to build a media business, even though that might be counterintuitive, because the state of the media economy looks pretty rough from the outside. You see the traditional media companies contracting or dying. You see consolidation in book publishing. You see layoffs and a whole lot of pain and volatility as we're in this transition moment. You see social media and the chaos of that kind of dominating the landscape. But here, with the free press, with Zateo, with the Bulwark, with Emily Sundberg, we see promise, we see hope, we see these new businesses that are actually incredibly profitable because you don't need a lot of overhead. You don't need to pay for a lot to get started. You don't need to hire a development team. You can unwrap out of the box this whole system to help you succeed, whether that's on Substack or with some of the other options, and it's working. How happy, how optimistic do you think we should be? How much cheer, how much encouragement do you think we should feel, given that this is working? This is showing signs of success.
Yeah. I think it's a tremendous sign. People being able to build something and then have it be a big outcome for them is just like an important part of the ecosystem. In general, though, to me the big question is like, you know, where is media going? Like, is this a thing, you know, you sort of paint this doom and gloom picture about newspapers and TV and a lot of the legacy things that I feel, and I think a lot of people feel, is pretty fair. And if you're trying to paint sort of an optimistic note about, you know, yesterday's media companies, I think it's tough to do. And we're sitting here, like, I've been playing with the new Sora for the past couple days, where you can sort of make these like AI slop. It's basically can of soup, but in video format.
You're going to have to explain what can of soup is. In
Oh,
fact,
so
I think it's really.
Can of Soup was the one of our great designers, Gabriel, left to be a founder and pivoted through basically an early version of Sora in pictures. It was very fun.
Yeah,
Um,
just for static images, I could create a photo of you looking like one of the founding fathers.
and so I think this didn't even start with AI, but I think maybe since the advent of the internet, there's been this sense that there's just no business in media. Like there's just not a way, we've sort of destroyed the conditions by destroying the conditions that supported a lot of the legacy media. We've destroyed the ability for there to be any kind of media business that works and creates great things.
Are you saying that's been the assumption?
That's been the assumption. And in my reading, many of the staunch critics in legacy media of this acquisition are coming from that fundamentally pessimistic place that just says, look, like everything's bad. Nothing could be good. If there's something that looks like it's good happened, it must have been for some shady, nefarious reasons. But what do you make of that? I mean, do you think that the media is going to be a business that matters, and why?
I think I think the media is going to be a richer, more interesting, more diverse, and more valuable business than it has ever been, because the powers of the internet are profound. But we've gone through kind of 30 years of stumbling where we haven't really unlocked independence in the most efficient way. We've figured out that there's these cool new things called website, and there's this amazing thing called the internet, and we can make things. And so the first kind of products that came along in the new era of technology were like Facebook and Twitter and a little bit of MySpace and TikTok when we get to the later stages of it. And they are like profound products. They're like amazing. They could gather billions of people in one place and help connect people in some ways. But then they chose the advertising focused business model for them, which sort of put them on this inevitable path to aggregation, which then actually ends up concentrating power among the people who rule those platforms and not distributing it among the people who make the stuff that is valuable on those platforms. And
Yeah.
so what I think we've got to is this new stage in the maturation of the online media ecosystem where you can take some of the powers of that aggregators traditionally had by harnessing the internet and then putting it in service of those independent writers and creators and designing a kind of system that can actually distribute that power. So it's not just coming to the rulers of the platform. Like
Yeah.
you and I and Jiraj will never have, hopefully, will never have the power that Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk has, because the system of Substack, while it does reward us, it actually distributes the power among many. It gives the voices and the revenue to the millions instead of to the one or two or three people at the top.
Maybe the tight way to say this is the first generation social media companies created the power to destroy institutions, but not the power to create new ones.
Oh, that's beautiful, Chris. Put it on
And
a bumper sticker.
and I think a lot of people who have been skeptical of the old businesses, the old institutions, are kind of just happy with that. It's like, hey, these things are moribund. They have these flaws. They deserve they deserve their fate. But ultimately, you need institutions. You need sets of people working together for something bigger than themselves. That's not sort of like a one-time historical phenomenon. I think that's, culture matters, and the ability media matters, the ability to band together and make something great and make a new institution with its own culture, with its own goals that can sort of mentor the next generation, that can let people work together with a common cause. That stuff's all good. And we don't want to, you know, we don't want there to be no institutions. We just want there to be good ones. And to the extent that you can have new institutions put pressure on the old ones to reform or bring up fresh talent that comes in and kind of can take it over, or to the extent that you replace them, where you have something that's started new that becomes one of the most important organs, in the culture. I think those things are really important. And the idea of, uh, you know, Substack is just like serve those people, the people that are doing that. In our telling of the story, like we are not the heroes. The people making the thing are the heroes, and what we can do is help them realize their dreams and their ambitions. And it's exciting when they do.
Yeah, and this kind of game for the media is a lot more accessible to people than the previous generation of it was. Even if you are completely distraught by the demise of traditional media and are worried that those values will never come back, then you should be cheered somewhat by the fact that it's easier than it has ever been for anyone, no matter what their background or status is, to start a new kind of media institution, to start a new kind of media business and go direct without having to hire a bunch of people. Slot man and ham in the house.
That was what I was laughing at.
I saw another slot man. Oh god, that's gonna stick. There I saw another comment in there that's saying we need a renaissance. And I know this is a particular you love that word is very meaningful to you. And we get nervous about talking about it because it sounds too high minded and grandiose.
No, I get nervous about it because it invokes a Renaissance fair, which is
But this is
quintessentially nerdy.
that is the best part. That's the best part of the Renaissance. Um, the only success of the Renaissance was the eventual creation of Renaissance fairs. Okay, so can you tell me why you feel like the ultimate thing that we are hoping for with um, the movement that Substack is part of is the emergence of a new Renaissance or something like a Renaissance?
Why do I think that? I think culture is upstream of so much, um, and it's in this kind of cyclical feedback loop with technology, where a lot of our problems and a lot of the things that could be great in the world are in some balance of, being held back by technology, uh, our technological ability to kind of confront the physical world, and our cultural ability to confront sort of the human world. And you need both of those things to improve in order to kind of like realize a better future. And the two kind of are in this cycle. It's almost trite to say that the technology the medium is the message. The technology we use changes the kind of culture we have, but it's also true. I mean, if anybody who's in the industry knows that the culture we live in changes the kind of technology we can create. And so if you want to have a better future, if you want to have, your kids grow up in a better world than you yourself inherited, you have to be hoping for both better technology and better culture. And I think the story of we've just been through we're living through this huge dislocation where the technology changed the rules of culture, right? The same way that when the printing press came along, it changes what everything how everything works, and it threatens the established power, and looks kind of awful for a bit, starts a bunch of wars of religion and creates all of these kind of like crazy problems. But in the long run, if it gets built the right way, I think it can unlock something much not just as good as what came before, but much better. And the project of working towards building kind of the plumbing for that, so that the next generation of people who make the culture can have the biggest and best advantage possible, I think is just very, very high impact. I think it can create a renaissance. I think it's the only way you can have a renaissance, and we're going to do it.
We're all going to do it together. It's not Substack's going to do it. It's like all of us who vote for this kind of system and have this kind of belief can do it together. And when
Everybody with a cool badge next to their name is part of it.
yeah, the badges are the true unlock. The printing press, it did when it came in, it led to decades of unrest and tumult, but it did directly contribute to the scientific revolution, which directly contributed to the Enlightenment. And so there are precedents for how
Which many
technology.
people are still mad about, but eat it.
Yeah. But there are these precedents for the ways that technology and culture can dance together in very productive and happy ways. And so, even when it comes with volatility and difficulty.
So in conclusion, the free press selling for $150 million is awesome.
It's a positive sign for the future of culture. I do think it's going to have to change its name, though. I don't think it could be the Free Press anymore. I think it's going to have to call itself the $150 million press. Should we leave it on that hilarious note?
Perfect. What could be better? Subscribe to both our Substacks if you aren't already.
Oh, yeah, good idea. Yeah. See you,
All
everyone.
right. See ya.